Machiavelli, control perception. Control power. The man who wrote the most banned book in history understood one thing. Reality doesn't matter. Only what people believe matters. In 1513, Niccolo Machiavelli sat in exile, broke and disgraced. He'd lost everything. His position, his reputation, his power, and from that place of complete failure, he wrote down the truth that no one wanted to hear, that people don't follow facts, they follow feelings. They don't react to what's real. They react to what they think is real. And if you understand that, you can control anything. Not through force, through perception. Here's what most people get wrong about power. They think power comes from being the strongest, the smartest, or the most qualified. They think if you just work hard enough, do the right things, and prove your worth, you'll get power and respect. But that's not how it works. Never has been, never will be. Power comes from what people believe about you, not what's actually true. The person who controls perception controls everything. The person who shapes what others believe can lead them anywhere. And Machiavelli saw this pattern everywhere he looked. Renaissance Italy was a mess. City-states constantly at war. Rulers rising and falling. Alliances forming and breaking overnight. And Machiavelli, working as a diplomat, got to see behind the curtain. He met the successful leaders and the failures. And he noticed something fascinating. The ones who stayed in power weren't always the best rulers. They were the ones who understood perception. They knew that people don't follow reality. They follow the story they believe about reality. And if you can control that story, you control them. Not through lies necessarily, but through understanding what people need to believe, to trust you, fear you, or follow you. Machiavelli wrote about a prince named Cesare of Borgia. Borgia wasn't the strongest military leader. He wasn't the most moral. He wasn't even particularly likable. But he understood perception better than anyone. And that made him terrifying. When Borgia took over a region full of crime and chaos, he needed to restore order fast. But he also needed to maintain his reputation as a just and merciful leader, so what did he do? He appointed a cruel governor to clean things up. The governor was brutal, ruthless. He crushed the criminals and terrified everyone into obedience. Order was restored. But now the people hated the governor. They saw him as a tyrant. So Borgia did something brilliant. He had the governor publicly executed. He blamed all the cruelty on the governor alone. And suddenly, Borgia looked like the hero who saved them from a tyrant. See what happened there. Borgia got the results he needed through violence and fear. But he controlled the perception so that people saw him as merciful and just. He played both sides. He was the problem and the solution. And people loved him for it. That's the power of controlling perception. You can do whatever you need to do as long as people believe the right story about why you're redoing it. Reality is what happened. Perception is what people think happened. And perception is what they'll act on. Machiavelli broke this down into a principle. He said it's not enough to have power. You must appear to have the qualities people want in a leader. You must seem generous, honest, compassionate, and strong. Seem, not necessarily be. Because people judge based on appearances, not reality. This sounds cynical, and maybe it is. But watch how the world actually works and tell me he's wrong. Politicians don't win by having the best policies. They win by making people believe they have the best policies. Brands don't succeed by having the best product. They succeed by making people believe they have the best product. Influencers don't grow by being the most authentic. They grow by controlling their image perfectly. Perception beats reality almost every time, because most people don't have access to reality. They only have access to perception, and they base all their decisions on that. Machiavelli understood something else crucial, that people see what they want to see. They have biases, expectations, fears, hopes, and they interpret everything through those filters. So, if you understand their filters, you can control what they see. He gave this example. A leader can do the same action in two different situations. In one, people see it as strong. In the other, they see it as cruel. The action is identical, but the perception changes based on context, timing, and how it's presented. The smart leader understands this and frames everything carefully. This is why optics matter more than reality in positions of power. It's not about what you do, it's about how people interpret what you do. And you have more control over that interpretation than you think. Let's go deeper. Machiavelli said there are two ways to fight, with laws and with force. Laws are human. Force is animal. And while leaders should rely on laws, they must know how to use force when needed. But here's the key. Even when using force, you must control the perception of why you're using it. If people believe your force is justified, necessary, and used reluctantly, they'll accept it, maybe even praise you for it. But if they believe your force is cruel, unnecessary, or self-serving, they'll hate you for the exact same action. Same force, different perception, completely different outcome. This is why leaders spend so much time on messaging, on PR, on crafting narratives. It's not manipulation for fun. It's understanding that human beings operate on belief, not fact. And if you want to lead humans, you better understand what they believe and why. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. Machiavelli said that sometimes you have to do things that look bad if you examine them closely. Things that serve the greater good but require tough decisions. The key is making sure people don't examine them closely. You control what they see. You highlight the results. You frame the necessity. You manage the narrative. He wasn't saying lie constantly. He was saying, understand that people's perception of you is more important than the complete truth of every action you take. Because people don't know the complete truth. They never will. They only know the version they see. So make sure that version serves your ability to lead effectively. Think about it in your own life. You've probably worked with someone who was genuinely good at their job but terrible at showing it. They did great work quietly, never promoted themselves, never controlled their image, and they got passed over for people who were maybe less skilled but better at managing perception. That's not fair, but it's real. And Machiavelli would say that's on them. If you're good at something but nobody knows it, are you actually good at it? Your skill only matters if others perceive it. Otherwise, it's invisible. And invisible value has no power. Or think about social media. The people with the most influence aren't necessarily the most knowledgeable or talented. They're the ones who understand perception, who know how to present themselves, who control their image perfectly, who understand what their audience needs to believe to follow them. They're playing the same game Machiavelli described 500 years ago. They understand that people follow what they believe, not what's necessarily true. And they craft that belief carefully and consistently. Here's the practical application. In every situation where you want influence, ask yourself these questions. What do people currently believe about me? What do I need them to believe? What's the gap? And how do I close that gap? Not by lying, but by understanding what you're showing them, what you're emphasizing, what you're leaving out, how you're framing things. Because all of that shapes perception, and perception shapes outcomes. Say you want a promotion. Reality is you've been doing good work. But does your boss perceive that? Have you made it visible? Have you framed it in terms of value to them? Or are you just hoping your work speaks for itself? Because it won't. Work doesn't speak. You have to speak for your work. You have to control the perception of your value. Or say you're building something, a business, a brand, a following. You can have the best product or content in the world. But if people don't perceive it as valuable, it doesn't matter. You have to understand what they need to see to believe it's worth their time, money, or attention. Then you show them exactly that. This isn't being fake, it's being strategic. It's understanding that human beings are perception machines. We can't see objective reality. We only see our interpretation of it. And your job is to influence that interpretation in your favor. Machiavelli also warned about the opposite, about letting others control your perception. If you're not actively managing how people see you, someone else is. Your enemies, your competitors, random circumstances, and they're probably not presenting you in the best light. This is why silence can be deadly. If you're not telling your story, someone else will. And their version probably won't help you. You have to be proactive about perception, about your reputation, about what people believe about you. Because, in the game of power, perception is everything. But here's the balance. Machiavelli was clear that you can't fake it forever. Your perception has to be somewhat rooted in reality. You can't appear strong if you're constantly failing. You can't appear generous if you never give anything. The perception needs substance behind it, just not perfect substance. Because perfection is impossible and people don't actually expect it. What they expect is the appearance of the qualities they value: confidence, competence, strength, integrity. Whatever matters in your context, and as long as you appear to have those things most of the time, they'll follow you even when you occasionally fall short. The truth Machiavelli understood is this: people want to be led. They want to believe in someone. They want to follow someone who appears to know what they're doing. And if you can give them that appearance consistently, they'll give you power. Not because you're perfect, but because you understand what they need to perceive, to trust you. This is the game being played at every level: business, politics, relationships, social dynamics. Those who understand it win. Those who ignore it lose, even if they're more qualified, more moral, or more deserving. Reality doesn't distribute power. Perception does. And if you want power, you better learn to control what people believe about you. Not through manipulation. Through strategic truth-telling. Through understanding what to show, when to show it, and how to frame it. Machiavelli got exiled for saying this out loud. But 5 centuries later, his book is still studied by everyone who wants to understand how power actually works. Because he was right. People follow what they believe, and belief is shaped by perception. Control perception. Control power. Subscribe for more truth about power.